Welcome back to The Last Word with me, Justice Malala. We were supposed to have the Minister of Defense, Thandi Modise, with us tonight, but we can't raise her on our tech. Our tech is letting us down a bit. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we continue our very enjoyable discussion with Professor Dirk Kotze of the Political Sciences Department at UNISA. Prof, let me ask you, we have 10,000 troops being deployed. We've had this year the July riots. We've had ministers, including our guest who are supposed to be here, being held hostage. Are you worried when you look at the security situation at the moment? As I walked into studio tonight, there were reports of a candidate in KwaZulu-Natal whose bodyguards allegedly shot at disgruntled potential voters. Are you worried about the security situation, and what can we expect, do you think?
Well, I'm not worried about the overall security situation. There are incidents, and there are several incidents have been in KwaZulu-Natal. That's something which has happened almost every time at elections time. So it's not that I would say we get used to it, but it is something which is predictable to a large extent. It does not exist all over the country. So I don't think we should say it's something which is a national issue, which is a national threat. It's not something which poses a threat to the election itself. What we have seen, especially during the time of the nominations, is that there have been political assassinations. Again, very much in KwaZulu-Natal, we've seen it also, and also especially amongst ANC candidates and ANC contenders. We've seen it also in the case of one EFF candidate that was killed in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think that the general interpretation is that it is very much a symptom of the very intense contestation that exists for the position of councillor, for nominations, and to be elected as councillor. Because for many people, to enter as a councillor at local government level is the beginning of political opportunities. And not only political opportunities, but life opportunities, career opportunities. So there's lots of competition for that. But unfortunately, what we have seen is that it is not just a matter of competition for it, but it becomes actually a matter of life and death. And that is the worrying factor about it. That is, people are willing actually to kill in order to create opportunities to put themselves or persons very close to them in positions that will hopefully benefit them in terms of appointments, in terms of contracts and otherwise. So it is a means towards an end. It's not an end in itself of political violence. We can go back to the period of yes?
No, go back. You are saying we can go back to 1994. Continue.
To 1994, and we all know about the violence that existed, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, between the ANC and the IFP. What has happened now is that it's become more internal, intra-political violence, and not so much violence between political parties. And I think that at least is something which puts us in a better position, that it is not anymore trying to eliminate your political opposition, but the fact that it is within political parties is still something which the leadership of political parties certainly will have to address over a long period. It's not something which will be eradicated very quickly.
When you mentioned the EFF candidate, there was another one earlier this week, the NFP's candidate in a part of KwaZulu-Natal. We've had in Tshwane a candidate who was murdered in Mabopane Township. We've continued to hear all over the place. Do you think this could, or has the potential, if not nipped in the bud, of becoming a culture that goes beyond KwaZulu-Natal?
It has the potential, but at the moment I think it is limited. It's largely limited to periods of elections. In some cases it has also been targeted against, for example, municipal officials like city managers and others. But it is something which certainly the politicians, the political leaders, as well as the security leadership, in the country will have to look at very closely, because it is something that can develop into a very untenable situation, which where we are stand in terms of the democratic nature of elections and of politics in general can actually threaten that. So it is something that needs special attention. It is something which cannot be ignored and say, well, this is just typical of politics and we take it for granted. It's something that we can't do anything about, or we don't have to take anything about it, because it's a natural phenomenon. Yeah. It should not be regarded as a natural phenomenon.
Yes, indeed. Let me take you back a bit to the political parties. I wanted to ask you about the ANC going into this election. It's the incumbent party in many parts of the country, in many municipalities. What do you think the problems that we've had as a country and as a state have had? What's the impact on the ANC and its campaigning this time around? And I want to stay slightly on the security situation with the July riots, with the taking hostage of the ministers, the fact that the crime numbers have continued to go up, even if you take out last year's lull, 2020, but you compare to 2019. What has been... As someone said, the ANC seems to be on an apology tour. And do you think this is going to be a big issue now and in 2024?
Well, I think where we are standing at the moment, what President Ramaphosa tries to do is a sort of a rescue effort. It is a way of trying to actually distance himself from the period of President Ramaphosa, of President Zuma. As saying very much like what President Zuma did in 2007 and thereafter, to say, I don't take actually ownership of what President Mbeki was in President Mbeki's administration before 2007 or 2009. And I think President Ramaphosa is doing something similar, to say, I'm presenting to you a new ANC, or ANC in the making. You must judge me not on the ANC of the past 10 years or 9 years, but rather give me a chance to build a new ANC, a more unified ANC, an ANC with less corruption, an ANC with more, with stronger processes or procedures of electing the people who are fit for purpose, as he calls it, as an ANC which is more moral and with more better ethical conduct. So these are the promises that he is making. So in a sense, he distances himself from the record of the ANC of the past 5 years, from 2016, and the Zuma era in general. Whether that will be convincing for the electorate, I think is the test of Monday. Because what we are seeing, what we've started to see in 2016, especially in the metros, is that voters are becoming more critical and saying, well, though we are born in the ANC, this is the party that really gave us freedom. Now we are expecting more. We are expecting, for example, better living conditions. We are expecting better service delivery. We are expecting that we have a better quality of life. And I think what voters are doing now is moving away from the more ideological approach to politics to much more of a materialistic or a realistic or a living conditions form of politics, of saying politics is about what I experience on a daily basis. And I think this will be the interesting test, whether that is going to continue in this election, or whether the personality of President Ramaphosa as an alternative, as a new factor in the ANC, really will be able to convince the electorate and ANC supporters that there is, in fact, a different type of ANC in the making. And that will be the test for the ANC and more specifically for President Ramaphosa. But I think there is some reservations amongst many of the voters. And I think what I expect is that they are not necessarily going to choose another political party, but they are going to say, let's take a step back. And I'm not going to vote necessarily Monday. I want to see whether these sort of promises or predictions by President Ramaphosa are actually true. And that is where 2024 comes in with the national and provincial elections. Because if he can really turn it around in the next 2 years, then it might make a difference for the ANC.
Professor Dirk Kotze, thanks so much for staying with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see about your predictions after Monday. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Join us after the break for our comment of the day.